The rain had not stopped for 3 days, and Marina's hands were raw through the narrow alley behind the market with her wooden cart, the wheels scraping against broken concrete, her body aching in ways that had become normal. At 27, she felt older than her father, who lay in their single room with lungs that rattled like old machinery. The food she prepared was simple: rice, beans, fried plantains, sometimes chicken if she could afford it. She sold it to workers who passed through the industrial district, men and women who needed something warm before their shifts began. And every morning, without fail, she saw the girl. The child sat beneath a torn awning near the abandoned kiosk, her legs pulled to her chest, her eyes following every person who walked past. She was small, maybe 10 years old, with matted hair and skin covered in dust. Her clothes hung loose, too big, as if they had belonged to someone else. Marina had seen homeless children before, but this one was different. She never begged, never spoke. She just watched, like she was waiting for something terrible to arrive. The first time Marina gave her food, the girl flinched. The second time, she ate without looking up. By the third week, the girl would appear at the same spot every morning, and Marina would hand her a plate wrapped in brown paper. And every time Marina walked away, she felt the weight of those silent eyes following her, holding secrets too heavy for a child to carry. But on the morning the SUVs came, Marina realized she had been feeding someone the world was desperately searching for, and that morning would change everything. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. New York, London, Canada? We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Marina had learned to move quickly in the dark. She woke at 4 each morning, boiled water on a single gas burner, chopped vegetables by candlelight to save electricity, and loaded her cart before the streets filled with people. Her father, Joseph, would be awake by then. Coughing into a rag he kept folded under his pillow, she would bring him tea, help him sit up, and promise him things would get better. He never believed her, but he never said so either. That was the kindness they exchanged. Marina's mother had died when she was 16, and her 2 older brothers had left the city within a year, chasing work in places they never named. They sent nothing back. No money, no letters, no phone calls. It was just Marina and her father now, surviving in a room barely large enough for 2 mattresses and a table. The walls were stained with mold. The ceiling leaked when it rained. But it was theirs, and Marina defended it with everything she had. The girl appeared every morning at the same time, just after 6, when the sky turned from black to gray. She never came close to the cart. She waited at a distance, like an animal that had learned to fear hands. Marina would finish serving the early workers, then wrap a plate and walk it over to the girl, setting it down a few feet away before stepping back. The girl would wait until Marina turned around, then she would eat quickly, her eyes darting toward every sound. One morning, Marina tried to speak to her. "What's your name?" The girl froze, her hands clutching the plate, her body tense like she might run. "It's okay," Marina said softly. "You don't have to tell me. I just want to know you're safe." The girl said nothing, but the next morning, she was there again. And the morning after that. And slowly, over weeks, Marina began to notice things. The girl had a small bracelet on her wrist, silver, with initials engraved on it. EM. Her clothes, though filthy, were made of good fabric, the kind that didn't come from donation bins. And sometimes, when the girl thought no one was looking, she would pull a photograph from her pocket and stare at it, her lips moving in silent words. Marina never asked about the photograph. She knew better than to push. But she wondered, who was this child? Why was she alone? And why did she look over her shoulder every time a car engine started? The neighborhood had started to talk. Marina's customers, the women who sold vegetables in the market, the men who fixed motorcycles on the corner, they all had opinions. "You're too soft," one woman said. "Street children are not what they seem. They steal. They bring trouble." "She's just a child," Marina replied, wiping down her cart. "A child with no family, no home? That's not normal. Be careful." Marina ignored them. She had been raised to believe that kindness was not conditional. You didn't help people because they deserved it. You helped them because you could. But the warning stayed in her mind, especially at night when she lay awake listening to her father's labored breathing and wondering if she was making a mistake. One evening, as Marina packed up her cart, she saw a man standing across the street, watching the girl. He was tall, clean-shaven, wearing a dark jacket that looked too expensive for the neighborhood. The girl saw him too. Her entire body went rigid. She stood slowly, her eyes locked on the man, and then she ran. Not toward Marina, not toward the market. She ran into the maze of alleys behind the buildings, disappearing into the shadows. The man took a step forward, then stopped. He looked at Marina, his face unreadable, and then he walked away. Marina's heart was pounding. She abandoned her cart and ran after the girl, calling out, "Wait! Please, wait!" She found her crouched behind a dumpster, shaking, her arms wrapped around her knees. Marina knelt down slowly, keeping her distance. "It's okay. He's gone." The girl looked up, and for the first time, Marina saw fear so raw it made her chest tighten. "Please," the girl whispered. "Don't let them take me." "Take you where? Who are they?" But the girl just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Marina didn't push. She sat down on the wet ground beside the dumpster and stayed there until the girl stopped shaking. Then she did something she had never done before. She brought the girl home. Joseph was asleep when they arrived. Marina lit a candle and gave the girl a blanket, a cup of water, and a plate of rice. The girl ate slowly, her eyes scanning the room, looking for exits. Marina sat across from her, her voice gentle. "You can stay here tonight. No one will hurt you. I promise." The girl didn't respond, but she didn't leave either. She curled up on the floor near the door, clutching the blanket, and eventually, she fell asleep. Marina watched her for a long time, wondering what kind of life had taught a child to sleep like that, ready to run. The next morning, Marina woke to find the girl sitting at the table, staring at her father. Joseph was awake, his eyes kind, his voice soft. "What's your name, little one?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Elara." Marina's father smiled. "That's a beautiful name." For the first time, the girl smiled back. It was small, barely there, but it was real. And in that moment, Marina knew she couldn't send her back to the streets. She didn't know what danger the girl was running from, but she knew she couldn't turn her away. Not yet. Not until she understood. The days that followed were strange and careful. Elara stayed in the room during the day while Marina worked, helping Joseph by fetching him water or reading to him from old newspapers. She never went outside. She never asked to. And every time a car passed too close to the building, she would freeze, her body tense, her breathing shallow. Marina tried to ask her questions, gently, without pressure. "Do you have family, Elara?" "No." "Where did you live before?" "I don't remember." "Who was that man who was watching you?" Elara's face went pale, and she didn't answer. Marina didn't push, but she started noticing things. Elara had a small canvas bag she kept close at all times. Inside, Marina glimpsed a photograph of a woman, elegant, wearing pearls, standing in front of a grand house. There was also a handkerchief, white with dark stains that looked like dried blood, and a broken locket with the initials M.R. Marina's chest tightened. Who was this woman, and what had happened to her? One afternoon, a neighbor knocked on Marina's door. Her name was Clara, an older woman who lived downstairs. She looked nervous. "Marina, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "There are men asking questions about a little girl. They say she's missing. They're going door to door." Marina's blood went cold. "What kind of men?" "I don't know. They have cars, nice cars. They look serious." Marina thanked her and closed the door. She turned to Elara, who was sitting on the floor, her face drained of color. "Elara, you have to tell me the truth. Who are you?" The girl's lips trembled. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because if I tell you, they'll find me. And if they find me, they'll hurt you too. Marina knelt down, taking the girl's hands in hers. I don't care about me. I care about you. Please, let me help. And Lara looked at her with eyes too old for her age. My mother, she whispered. They killed her. The words hung in the air like smoke. Marina felt her breath catch. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to do. But she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let anyone take this child. Not until she knew the truth. That night, Marina barely slept. She lay on her mattress, staring at the ceiling, listening to Alara's quiet breathing. She thought about the photograph, the locket, the blood-stained handkerchief. She thought about the man who had watched Alara. And she thought about the SUVs that Clara had mentioned. Something was happening, something bigger than she understood. And Marina was caught in the middle of it. The next morning, Marina left early to set up her cart. She told Alara to stay inside, to keep the door locked, to not open it for anyone. Alara nodded, but Marina could see the fear in her eyes. As Marina pushed her cart through the streets, she felt a heaviness in her chest that wouldn't go away. She served her customers mechanically, her mind elsewhere. And then, just after 7, she heard the sound. Engines. Low, powerful, rumbling through the narrow street. She looked up and felt her heart stop. 7 black SUVs, moving in a slow line, their windows tinted, their presence commanding. They stopped in front of Marina's building. Doors opened. Men stepped out, dressed in dark suits, their faces serious, their movements coordinated. People on the street stopped to stare. Marina dropped the ladle she was holding and ran. She pushed through the crowd, her breath ragged, her mind screaming. She reached the building and saw them standing at her door. One of them was knocking, another was speaking into a radio. Marina's legs felt weak, but she forced herself forward. "What do you want?" she shouted. The men turned. One of them stepped forward, his face calm, his voice steady. "We're looking for someone." "Who?" He pulled out a photograph and held it up. It was Alara, younger, cleaner, smiling, but it was her. Marina felt her world tilt. "Where is she?" the man asked. Marina's throat was dry. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. We've been watching this area for weeks. We know she's been here. We know you've been feeding her. And we know she's inside." Marina's heart was pounding so hard, she thought it might break. "Who are you?" The man reached into his jacket and pulled out a badge. It was official, government issued. "My name is David Rowan. I'm the uncle of Alara Morella Rowan, and I've been searching for her for 4 months." The name hit Marina like a wave. Rowan. The initials on the locket? M.R. Morella Rowan. She had heard that name before. It had been in the news. A billionaire philanthropist. A woman who had funded schools, hospitals, shelters. A woman who had died in an explosion at her estate, along with her daughter. Or so the world had been told. Marina's voice was barely a whisper. They said she was dead. David's jaw tightened. They said a lot of things. But Alara survived. She escaped. And she's been hiding ever since. Why? David looked at her with eyes full of pain. Because the people who killed her mother are still looking for her. And if they find her before we do, she won't survive a second time. Marina felt the ground shift beneath her. She turned and looked at her door. She thought about the girl inside. The girl who had been sleeping on the streets, the girl who had trusted her. And she made a decision. She stepped aside. "She's inside." David nodded to his men, and they moved quickly, efficiently, surrounding the building. One of them knocked again, harder this time. "Alara, it's Uncle David. You're safe now. Please open the door." There was silence. Then slowly the door creaked open. Alara stood there, her face pale, her eyes wide. When she saw David, she froze. And then she ran, not away, toward him. She crashed into his chest, sobbing, her small body shaking with relief and terror. David knelt down and held her, his own eyes wet. I've got you. I've got you. You're safe. Marina stood at a distance, watching, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. The crowd that had gathered was silent, everyone staring, everyone understanding they were witnessing something extraordinary. David stood, still holding Ilara, and turned to Marina. You saved her life. Marina shook her head. I just gave her food. No, you gave her more than that. You gave her safety. You gave her kindness when the world gave her nothing. And because of you, she's alive. He gestured to one of his men, who stepped forward with a briefcase. David opened it, revealing stacks of cash. This is for you, for everything you've done. Marina stared at the money, then looked at Ilara, who was watching her with tear-filled eyes. I don't want money. David frowned. Then what do you want? Marina's voice was steady. Just keep her safe. That's all I want. David studied her for a long moment, then nodded. He closed the briefcase and handed it back to his associate. Then he spoke quietly into his radio. Within minutes, more vehicles arrived. Not SUVs this time, but vans marked with the logo of Rowan Foundation. People stepped out, architects, contractors, medical personnel. David turned to Marina. You said you don't want money, but I'm not letting you walk away with nothing. My sister would have wanted you taken care of. So here's what's going to happen. We're building you a restaurant, a real one, with equipment, permits, everything you need. We're paying for your father's medical care, all of it. And we're enrolling you in culinary school if you want it. This isn't charity, this is gratitude. Marina felt tears spill down her cheeks. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Ilara pulled away from David and ran to Marina, wrapping her arms around her waist. Thank you, Ilara whispered. Thank you for saving me. Marina knelt down and held her tight. You saved me too. In the weeks that followed, Marina's life transformed in ways she had never imagined. The Rowan Foundation moved quickly. Her father was admitted to a private hospital where doctors finally diagnosed the infection that had been slowly killing him. He received treatment, real treatment, and within a month, he was breathing without pain for the first time in years. Marina was given a space in a commercial district, a clean, modern kitchen with stainless steel counters and industrial stoves. She hired 2 assistants from the neighborhood, women who had struggled just like her, and she enrolled in a culinary program at a local institute, learning techniques she had only dreamed of. But the best part was Ilara. She visited every week, brought by David, who had taken custody of her and moved her into a secure estate outside the city. She would sit at Marina's counter, eating whatever new dish Marina had prepared, talking about school, about friends, about the future. And every time she left, she would hug Marina and whisper the same words. I'll always remember you. One evening, as Marina closed up her new restaurant, David stopped by. He looked tired, but relieved. We found them, he said. Who? The people who killed my sister. It took months, but we found them. Ilara's testimony was key. She saw everything. She remembered everything. And because you kept her alive, she was able to help us bring them to justice. Marina didn't know what to say. She just nodded, her heart heavy with the weight of it all. David reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. This is from Ilara. She wanted you to have it. Marina opened the envelope. Inside was a drawing, done in colored pencils. It showed 2 figures, one tall, one small, standing in front of a food cart under a bright sun. At the bottom, in a child's handwriting, were the words, You fed me when I was hungry. You loved me when I was lost. Thank you for being my family. Marina pressed the drawing to her chest and closed her eyes. In a world filled with noise and cruelty and indifference, she had chosen kindness. And that single choice had saved a child, exposed a crime, and changed 2 destinies forever. She thought about the morning the SUVs had arrived, the fear she had felt, the uncertainty. And she thought about how easily she could have turned away, could have ignored the girl, could have protected herself instead. But she hadn't. And because of that, a little girl who had lost everything had found hope again. Marina opened her eyes and looked out at the street, where people were walking home from work, where life continued in its chaotic, beautiful, painful way. And she smiled. Because she knew now, more than ever, that kindness was not weakness. It was the bravest thing a person could do. And sometimes, when you least expected it, kindness came back to you in ways you could never imagine. That night, Marina went home to her father, who was sitting up in bed, reading a newspaper, his lungs clear, his eyes bright. She sat beside him and told him everything. And when she finished, he took her hand and said the words she would carry with her for the rest of her life. "You did good, Marina. Your mother would be proud." And for the first time in years, Marina believed him.